My wife showed me a post earlier today on social media where someone was saying that he and his wife had gotten an abortion at 5 months gestation, and praising, this post was saying what a good decision that was. And, we were both just disgusted and appalled by that. And, when we were talking, and it made me realize, this is of course things that I've been thinking about for a long time, but when we were talking this over, I was telling her my perspective on it, and I was saying that, so this kind of behavior, this people doing things like this, just reprehensible things like this, it's the result of liberalism, in the social political sense, having run amok and having gone too far. And I was, what I was telling my wife, and what we were talking about, my position is that, sort of a liberal ideology, which is to say that people should be allowed to live the way that they please, and that, the individual wants and needs, are just as valuable, if not more valuable, than collective wants and needs of a government or a society. So, liberal ideas in that sense, I think, are good. I think that, and that's always been my position, ever since I became, politically aware as a child, is that individualism is good. People should be free to live as they please, within reason, and people should not be overly restricted in what they talk about, what they think, what they feel, how they choose to live. The differences, and because we're all different. We all share a lot in common, but we're all also different, and we have different wants and needs. And one lifestyle does not, a lifestyle that suits a large number of people does not necessarily suit everyone. And what people want and need different things. They need the same things usually, but they also need different things. We all have different tastes, and we all have different desires, and different ways of seeking happiness, trying to achieve happiness, the pursuit of happiness, etc. And so I definitely think society should be liberal overall, but there is also a point at which it goes too far, and it just becomes about people wanting permission to do whatever they want, no matter how bad it might be, and that's also so we were also talking about, and this, my belief is that, I think a society needs a framework, of a moral framework, a religious framework of in some sense. And I'm not speaking of any particular religion. I'm not talking about, I'm not saying we should live in a theocracy or anything like that. But every successful culture in human history has had a strong foundation of, some kind of shared value system, some kind of shared morality, some kind of shared sense of what is right and wrong, and what is good and bad, and what we all sort of agree on as being acceptable and not acceptable. And if we don't have that, well, then things are just going to degrade and disintegrate and decay, and you'll be left with a society of people just being, largely as selfish as possible, and just trying to push the envelope as far as they can, to permit as much personal freedom as they possibly can get beyond the bounds of reason or decency. And that's how you get people, supporting the right to unlimited, unrestricted abortions at any stage of gestation. And I'm not, just for what it's worth, I'm not universally against abortion, like early term abortion. Potentially, I think it's a complicated issue, and I'm generally I'm generally staunchly pro-life, but I also think there are shades of gray, and I think there are complexities to it that warrant a lot of discussion and a lot of I think there's arguments to be made in both directions, and I think we can I think we need to reach some kind of compromise, some kind of consensus that minimizes human suffering, in all ways, while also preserving respect for human life at all its stages. But that's just an aside. So but you have people who are just unreservedly depraved about this stuff, and you get people who are advocating for just any kind of extreme, selfish, depraved evil they can come up with, and anything they can conjure up. They when you have liberalism run amok without any regard for any kind of shared morality, for any kind of collective sense of good and evil, then you get people who just their attitude ceases to be about right or wrong in any way, and it just becomes about what can I get away with? What can I, how far can I push this? What can I get away with? You can't tell me what to do, kind of an attitude. And then you have societal breakdown, and you have any disintegration of any surviving ethical reality in society. And so we really need to kind of try to strike a balance between individual liberty and the reality that if we just embrace individual liberty and nothing else, then that's not going to work either. We have to accept the reality that if you just let people run wild and do whatever they want, and you have no sort of guiding framework or foundation that a society is built on, that offers people a clear notion of what is good and what is bad, and what is taking individual freedom too far. And because it's you can you can be a libertarian, you can say people should be allowed to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't hurt another person, and that's reasonable. I think that's fundamentally what we should be aiming for. I'm not a libertarian, but I'm just saying that kind of attitude towards it, I think, is the healthiest. But then you have to have a clear distinction, saying okay, but then that doesn't, the important part there, equally important to individual freedom of lifestyle, is also then you cannot harm another person. You have to kind of clarify that and make it really clear that as a society we don't tolerate that. We don't tolerate harming other people in the pursuit of our own individual choice of lifestyle and how we want to live and express ourselves. It's both are equally important. Individual freedom, to live as we please, but then also a recognition of the shared collective values that bind us together, and that we have a responsibility on a collective level to every other member of the society. We can't just go one way or the other. We can't go all individual absolute freedom to do whatever we want, or all collective responsibility, all constrictive traditionalism and no freedom to do what we want. Both are bad, and both will lead to disaster.